Hi guys, it's 5 o'clock and Monday night. So my name is Ash McComb from The Conscious Jungle. I'm taking over Ben's page, A Guide to Cardinia, to cook dinner tonight. It's been a really wet, cold, windy kind of weekend. So I thought I'd do a bit of a winter warmer for everybody today. One of my favourite things to cook is a mixed vegetable blended soup. What I really like about this recipe is it allows me to use up all of the little odds and ends that I have sitting around in my crisper of my fridge. So basically what I'm doing today is, earlier this morning I went through my fridge and gathered together all of the little odds and ends. So I've got little bits of onions that were not enough for one recipe. I've got some really limp carrots. I've got some turnips that are weeks old. I've also grabbed some cauliflower from the garden, like this guy, that has sprouted and is not very much good use for things like, you know, cooking up your cauliflower florets. But all of this stalk, all of this leaves. Hi Meg, thanks for watching, thanks for tuning in with us tonight. All of these leaves, these are all really packed full of nutrients, and you know, what better way to hide them than a mixed vegetable blended soup. So I'm going to use my Thermomix today. I do most of my cooking at home with a TM6. What it's doing is it's asking me to put 25 to 30 grams of oil in. I've got my oil that I refill at the bulk food store. As I pour it in, it's actually adding it up as I go, so I don't have to worry about measurements or anything like that. The next great thing about this recipe is really basic. It's asking you to put in the oil, and then it's asking you to put in 170 to 200 grams of mixed allium vegetables. So for those of you that aren't familiar with alliums, that is your garlics, your leeks, your onions. Most of the produce that I'm cooking with today has come from the Garfield Community Garden. This little leek I harvested a couple of weeks ago. The onion has come, and the garlic has come from Coral's shop, the Farmers Market Cafe in Nanagoon. So I'm just going to go ahead and add in my whole garlic. Just going to take my little stalk off of my leek and cut my leek up quite large, because this is going to actually blend and mix up for us. I'm even going to add in my leaves of my leek. The great thing about alliums is they are really full of medicinal, nutritional benefits, but I'm going to leave that up to Heike to explain to you all of the great things that the allium family can do for your body. We're up to 114. Another thing that I wanted to mention is just food storage. So how you're storing the food in your fridge, how you're storing the little bits of leftovers. I often use glass jars for my little bits and odds and ends. You know, you might only need half an onion, so it's really great for me to be able to have those things to throw in. That's got us up to our 200 grams. What it's going to use here is it's going to use our high heat mode. I'm just going to grab my splash guard. For those of you that have a TM6, you'll know that we've got this high heat mode. And that's for 4.5 minutes. That's going to brown up our allium vegetables. While that's going, I am going to grab this loaf. This is from the guys at the Cannibal Creek Bakehouse in Garfield. They cook all of their sourdough loaves in a 129-year-old Scotch oven, which is wood-fired. I also love that, you know, they don't use plastic bags. You can take in your own bread bags. At the moment, love the high heat. Yeah, Trace, high heat is the bomb. Really gives you those pan juices and that browning. I've got a 5-seed loaf. This is a few days old from Cannibal Creek Bakehouse. And to go with my soup, I'm going to make some croutons. So this is something that's really good to do if you've got stale bread. Great idea with the storage of small amounts of veg. Yeah, using your glass jars, using beeswax wraps. Not everybody has the wax wraps. But, you know, most people buy their jams and their peanut butters in glass jars, so it's something that you've all got available to you. Hayley, hi Hayley. I'm cooking a blended mixed vegetable soup with all the little bits of vegetables that I've had lying around, like this little guy that I don't really want to cook up as a cauliflower because he's a bit sprouty. And I'm using all my limp carrots and things like that. I'm also going to do some croutons to go with it. Let's pop my loaf aside. So one thing you can do, I'm not sure that it's going to work with my sourdough loaf. You can get your stale bread and you can roll it a little bit just to flatten it out. Yeah, it is working a little bit. Just give it a bit of a flatten out. This will help make it really crunchy as well as croutons. Tracy loves to make breadcrumbs with her stale bread. That's another really great way of utilising your leftovers and things that, you know, have really passed their best. Sounds delicious, Hayley. It's one of my favourite soups. It's just really fly by the seat of your pants kind of a soup. Got my silicone bread mat over here, and I'm going to lay my pieces of bread on top. Before I do that, I'm thinking I might just make them a little bit smaller. I might chop them up. So I've got 3 little boys. Hi, Mel. Thanks for saying hello. I've got 3 little boys, so they might not be able to get their mouth around a big crouton. And I do want to put these sprinkled nice on top of my soup for a little bit of crunch, considering it's a blended soup. So croutons are really, really basic, really easy to make. Package free if you buy it this way, if you buy your bread in paper or in your own bread bag. I've seen croutons on the shelves of supermarkets in plastic and boxes, and God knows, you know, where that's come from. One of the great things about the guys at Cannibal Creek Bakehouse, you know, it is sourdough. And with sourdough, you've got about 3,500 different bacteria in sourdough. And one of the main ones is the lactic acid. So the lactic acid helps to break down the glutens that are known to cause a lot of gut problems for people. So I've got my olive oil and I've got my pastry brush. I'm being a little bit gung-ho. I'm going to decant my olive oil into this little container here. That might make it a little bit easier. Can everybody hear me okay? Holler out if you can't hear me. One thing I love about the sourdough is, you know, from the Cannibal Creek Bakehouse, is you can go to your Woolworths, your Coles and all those sorts of places, your supermarkets, and buy sourdough from there. But they often use a lot of different things like bread improvers, and bread improvers are pretty well chemical preservatives. All they use at Cannibal Creek Bakehouse is flour, water, salt, and then they add different fruits and seeds and things like that into their loaves. So it is traditional. It's really close to the way that our grandparents, great-grandparents and all that would have made sourdough. Just got a little bit of salt. Just going to sprinkle my croutons. I got my oven preheated and I'm going to go pop that in the oven now. Perfect timing. It's singing at me. It's ready. So for those of you that have just tuned in, I have my alliums in here, nice and clear. Thanks, Meg, for letting me know. So it probably needed a little bit more browning, but I can smell that it's really got that aroma going. Just going to tear my machine so it says 0. The next step of this really easy soup is to add 700 to 800 grams of mixed vegetables, whatever you've got. I'm just going to take the tops off of my turnips, and you don't have to chop them big. Quite small is, don't have to chop them small, quite big, because the machine does a lot of the cutting and chopping for you. It takes out a lot of that laborious work. So I'm going to go in with my root vegetables that really need to be used first, because then I can add up the extra weight with things that have still got a little bit of life left in them. So what are people storing their fruits and vegetables in? Part of the issue with buying zero waste and minimal waste is that you buy things plastic free. And a lot of the time, it's the plastic around your lettuces and a lot of your different produce that keeps it fresh. It's awful, but it's true. So if you come home with some carrots and you just pop them straight in your crisper, which is what I did with these, sillily enough, they're going to be limp after a couple of days. They really lose their crispness. So it's really important to think about how we're storing our vegetables in our fridge to really get that longevity, the most that we can out of them. I'm up to 420 grams. So I'm going to go ahead with the rest of my really limp carrots. I'm just got my compost pile building up in front of me. Get my little crusties out the side. Now I'm going to go ahead, because I don't want to run out of room in this without using some greens, because we all know greens is where it's at. So I'm just going to roughly chop my sprouted collie. Oh, that's a bit woody there. I might not use that. I might just use my leaves. It's pretty old. Got my leaves of my cauliflower. So these are all packed full of nutrients. A really underutilized bit of vegetable. I know so many people that buy a broccoli and then they chop off all the florets and then they've got the broccoli stem and it just goes, dices it. So many nutrients within that stem that you know, you could be using. And a soup is a really great way to utilize those little bits. Just realized, why aren't I storing my limp carrots in my beeswax food wraps? Yes, Caroline, exactly. Beeswax is really great. I know Caroline Hammond, she's from Come Fly With Me Beekeeping. So she has a range of honey, and she does a lot of support for local beekeepers as well, if anybody out there is interested in beekeeping. Yeah. All right, I'm getting quite full, but it's all gonna cook down. I've got some silver beet. I'm gonna pop that in too, because we all know how much I love silver beets. Very, very much. All right, so that's our vegetables. I'm going to insert my lid. Got our croutons cooking in the oven. We've got our alliums, we've got our vegetables. I'm just gonna chop this up now. Need another chop, because I did put a lot of big things in. Just going to give that a bit of a wriggle, and I'm going to chop it one more time before I show you what it looks like. Chop it again. It's going to get another chop at the end once it's had some cooking. That'll do. Alright, wait for my locking arms. What soup am I making, Fiona? I'm making a blended mixed vegetable soup. So it's a base recipe using 200 grams of alliums, which are your leek, garlic and onion, and then adding in 700 grams of mixed vegetables. So I'm just using all the limp vegetables that I had in my fridge, in my crisper. So now it's going to ask me to add 750 to 850 grams of water. One thing I really like to do is add a little bit of wine. Maybe pour a cheeky glass for myself while I'm at it. This wine I've got is from Cannibal Creek Winery in Tynong North. A great local producer. One of the cool things about Cannibal Creek, just may as well while I'm here, Cannibal Creek Winery is that they have a wine club. So it's affordable quality wine, and they also have a members offer if you join their wine club to get $25% off of your order. And at this point they're delivering as well, so great way to support local. Just adding in some vegetable stock paste. This is something that I do when I've kept all my tops and my other tops and my bottoms of things. I whip it all up into this blended stock paste. After purchasing my veg, I place in a container with a lid and pop in the fridge. Yeah, definitely. Some of the things that I like to use is these fridge mates. I've had these for years, and I just find they really keep my vegetables really well if I put them in when I'm supposed to. And for my lettuces, I put them in another crisper, and it just protects them from the fridge, the damages. What am I getting? Water. So I've added in about 150 grams of wine, and I'm just going to top that up with some water. I've boiled it because I really want you guys to see the finished product tonight. Last Monday, we didn't have enough time for you guys to stick around and see what I was making. Putting in a little bit of salt. I get my salt from Coral at the Farmers Market Cafe in Narnagoon. I get that in bulk so I can refill my own containers. Yep, Cannibal Creek Vineyard, that's where it's from, Ben, correct? 25 minutes. That's going to cook for 25 minutes, and I'm going to blend it all up. So I've got my stock paste in, I've used a little bit of wine, water, got the alliums, and I've got my croutons in the oven. I think while I'm waiting for that, I might check my croutons, maybe give them a little bit of a jiggle. Tea towel would help with that so I don't burn my hands. Oh, they're looking really good. They're really, because I used, 3-day-old sourdough, they're really got a nice crisp to them. And I used the 5 seed. So I actually went in and I asked the guys, Kane and, I can't remember his name, Kane and somebody else? Kane and David. And I said I'm doing some croutons, I just need some day-old bread, 2-day-old bread, and they were able to help me out, which was great. So, like I was saying before, using the produce locally is really important. So the wine is from up the road. I'm in Bunyip, so Tynong, Garfield, they're all really local to me. And one of the things I wanted to talk about was food miles. I know we're in Australia, so for us, it's food kilometres. Food miles was a term that came about in the UK in 1990. And it basically means the environmental footprint that a product has, because based on the amount that distance it's travelled from the time of making till the time it gets to the consumer. And what is important about that is the further that things have travelled, the more of an environmental footprint that's had. It's really contributed to emissions, pollution, congestion in traffic and aeroplanes, accidents by having more things on the road travelling further. So by really reducing your food miles, your food kilometres, you're also supporting your local economy by supporting your local growers, producers. So there's so many benefits to reducing your food miles and kilometres. Yeah. That's pretty well lit, I think. I thought I would have more to chat about, but yeah, talking about the storage of things, using your glass containers, using your wax wraps, using your Tupperware containers, and really getting the longevity out of your vegetables. Those turnips, they are a month old, and because they've been stored properly, they've been able to last the distance. Another good thing with your lettuces, I feel like lettuce is one of the things that goes off the quickest. It really goes limp. You can give your lettuce a bit of a refresh by, I've got some silver beet here that are not crispy, but you can run those under a little bit of water, soak them into a little bit of water, and then take them out, put a paper towel or a tea towel, I prefer a tea towel, in the bottom of your container and lock it up. And that's going to re-crisp and refresh your lettuce leaves. That's a nice little tip if things are getting a little bit limp and you still want to get a little bit of life out of them. Mel's saying about the food kilometres, how it's the food security. The lower the kilometres, the more secure we are. If we're relying on mandarins to come in from California, versus mandarins from Mildura, like I know Mildura is still quite a distance from us here in Cardinia Council, but it's a lot closer than it is to California. So we're a lot more secure, especially in times like now where borders are closing. We're having a lot of issue with being able to get things like toilet paper. The more secure you are in being able to source your products, the more secure you are, I guess. I'm going to pull my croutons out of the oven. I gave them a sugar and I put them back in. They are looking, my glass is fogged up when I went to the oven. They're looking really good now. So I might wriggle them down onto my chopping board. Try not to burn myself. The one thing I really love about this recipe is really using up what you've got. It's a great thing to do before you go shopping again, is to just have a look through your crisper, re-evaluate where you're at, and this recipe you know, there's no limitations on it. It's what you've got. As long as you stick with those measurements and utilize those alliums, you know, you're all sorted. I'm just going to blend up that soup now. That's going to blend up for 1.5 minutes. So this function on the TM6 is that it's jiggling around a little bit, having a little dance. It's actually blending it slowly, so it's gone from 1, a bit noisy, all the way up to 10 to blend, which is a safety feature. Dinner in a minute. I've just stopped at 30 seconds because I couldn't deal with that loud noise for much longer. Let's open it up, have a little look. I have a bowl somewhere. Okay. Got my soup. I might just pour it into the bowl. My Thermomix sings and dances, it sure does. Alright. Just gonna get my little towel over here and clean up the edges. Try and be as profesh as a home cook can. Add in my croutons. And then, let me just try and arrange this ever so pretty for you. There we go. Mixed blended vegetable soup. Glass of Sauvignon Blanc Pinot thingo on the side. Dinner is served. Thanks for watching, guys. The wine is for the loud noise. Of sure is. The wine is for school holidays. See you guys. Don't forget to join in on Tuesday night for Tash at 5 p.m. from Tash Can Cook. And Thursday night we have a surprise, something a little bit different on A Guide to Cardinia's TV. Don't forget to follow me. I'm Ash from The Conscious Jungle. If you want to follow along for any of my Thermomix stuff, join the page Thermomixing with The Conscious Jungle. Until then, I will see you next time. Enjoy your dinner, guys. Bye.